The European Union, it's a name that conjures up images of bureaucrats in Brussels, mountains of paperwork, and endless debates about the curvature of bananas. But beneath the surface lies a complex experiment in international cooperation. 27 countries, all different sizes, trying to work together. It's like a dysfunctional family reunion with higher stakes. So how does this whole EU thing actually work? Imagine a club with 27 members, each with its own personality. That's the EU in a nutshell. It's a constant balancing act between individual interests and collective action. First up, let's meet the bureaucrats. No, not the ones from your local DMV. We're talking about the European Commission, the EU's executive branch. Think of them as the managers of this massive European club. They're responsible for proposing new laws, implementing policies, and generally keeping the whole EU machine running smoothly. The Commission is made up of 27 commissioners, one from each member state. But hold your horses, these commissioners aren't supposed to be representing their home country's interests. Their job is to act in the best interest of the EU as a whole. It's like asking your annoying brother-in-law to plan a family vacation that everyone will enjoy. Now, the Commission doesn't have unlimited power. They can propose all the laws they want, but ultimately it's up to the other EU institutions to approve them. But still, the Commission plays a crucial role in shaping the EU agenda and setting the direction of European integration. They're the ones with their hands on the levers of power, even if those levers are occasionally sticky with bureaucratic red tape. Next, we have the European Parliament, the only directly elected institution in the EU. That's right, every 5 years EU citizens get to cast their votes for who they want to represent them in this grand European Assembly. It's a beautiful display of democracy in action, or at least it would be if the Parliament actually had much power. Don't get me wrong, the Parliament isn't completely powerless. They have a say in approving the EU budget, and they get to co-decide on some EU laws with the Council of the European Union. But when it comes to proposing new laws, well, they're pretty much out of luck. That power rests solely with the Commission. So while the European Parliament may be the voice of the people, it's often a voice that's drowned out by the other, more powerful institutions. It's like that one friend you invite to parties who always has great ideas but never gets a chance to speak, because your louder, more opinionated friends keep interrupting them. Now let's move on to the big leagues, the European Council. This is where the heads of state or government of all 27 EU member states gather to discuss the really important issues facing the EU. Think of it as a high-stakes poker game, but instead of chips, they're gambling with the future of Europe. The European Council is responsible for setting the EU's overall political direction and priorities. They deal with the big picture stuff like climate change, security threats, and whether pineapple on pizza should be considered a crime against humanity. Okay, maybe not that last one, but you get the idea. The Council doesn't have any legislative power, but they do provide the political impetus for new EU laws and policies. They're the ones who set the agenda, and the Commission and Parliament are expected to follow their lead. Of course, getting 27 national leaders to agree on anything is like herding cats. So you can imagine how efficient this process can be. Section 5. The Court of Justice of the European Union, keeping everyone in check. In any club, you need someone to enforce the rules and make sure everyone is playing fair. In the EU, that role falls to the Court of Justice of the European Union, or CJU. This Luxembourg-based court is responsible for interpreting EU law and ensuring it's applied uniformly across all member states. The CJU is kind of like the Supreme Court of the EU. It settles legal disputes between EU institutions, member states, and even individuals. If a country is caught breaking EU law, the CJAU can impose hefty fines or other penalties. The court's rulings are binding on all member states, which means they have to follow them, even if they don't like it. This ensures that EU law is applied consistently across the bloc and that no one is above the law, not even the big players like Germany or France. Section 6. Making laws in the Labyrinth: how EU decisions are made. Now that we've met the main players, let's talk about how decisions are actually made in the EU. It's not exactly a straightforward process. In fact, it's often described as a labyrinthine system of checks and balances, which is a polite way of saying it's bloody complicated. The basic idea is that the Commission proposes new laws, and the Parliament and Council have to approve them. But within that framework, there are all sorts of different procedures and voting mechanisms, depending on the issue at hand. Sometimes, the Parliament and Council have to agree on a law together. Other times, the Parliament can veto a law proposed by the Commission. And in some cases, decisions can be made by qualified majority voting, which means that a law can be passed even if a few countries object to it. This complex system is designed to ensure that all member states have a say in the decision-making process, but it can also lead to gridlock and delays. It's like trying to get 27 people to agree on what to order for dinner, except the stakes are much higher and everyone is speaking a different language. Section 7. Germany, the big guy on the block. When it comes to power dynamics within the EU, it's no secret that some countries carry more weight than others. Germany, with its large population, strong economy, and central location, is widely considered to be the most influential member state. It's like that one friend who always picks up the tab at dinner, so you let them choose the restaurant. Germany's influence can be seen in a variety of areas, from its leading role in the Eurozone to its strong stance on fiscal discipline. When Germany speaks, other EU countries tend to listen. But this doesn't mean that Germany always gets its way. The EU's decision-making process is designed to prevent any single country from dominating the bloc. Even Germany, with all its economic and political clout, has to build consensus and compromise with its European partners. Still, there's no denying that when it comes to shaping the EU's agenda, Germany is a force to be reckoned with. Section 8. Malta and Luxembourg. Small voices, big influence. On the other end of the spectrum, you have smaller member states like Malta and Luxembourg. These countries may be small in size, but they often punch above their weight in EU decision-making. How do they do it? Well, for starters, they're really good at forming alliances and building coalitions with other countries that share their interests. Think of it like this. If you're a small country, you can't just throw your weight around and expect everyone to listen. You need to be strategic and find ways to amplify your voice. And that's exactly what Malta and Luxembourg have done. They've become masters at navigating the complex world of EU politics and using their influence to shape decisions in their favor. They've also been able to carve out niches for themselves in certain policy areas. For example, Luxembourg has become a major financial center, while Malta has positioned itself as a hub for online gaming and blockchain technology. This specialization gives them a certain level of expertise that other countries rely on, further increasing their influence within the bloc. The euro, one currency, many headaches. The euro, used by 20 of the 27 EU member states, symbolizes unity, but also causes tension. The eurozone includes countries with different economic strengths and weaknesses. Germany benefits from the euro while Greece and Italy struggle. This disparity leads to claims that the euro favors stronger economies. The 2009 eurozone crisis highlighted these issues, prompting calls for greater economic integration. Section 10. Brexit and Beyond, the never-ending saga of EU integration. The UK's decision to leave the EU, a process affectionately known as Brexit, was a major shock to the system. It was the first time a member state had ever chosen to leave the bloc, and it raised serious questions about the future of European integration. Some saw Brexit as a sign that the EU was becoming too bureaucratic and out of touch with the concerns of ordinary citizens. Others viewed it as an opportunity to deepen integration among the remaining member states and create a more united and cohesive Europe. Only time will tell what the long-term consequences of Brexit will be, both for the UK and for the EU. But one thing is for sure, the EU is a constantly evolving project, and its future will depend on the ability of its member states to find common ground and work together to address the challenges of the 21st century. Section 11. So, is everyone equal in the EU? Not really. So, after this whirlwind tour of the EU's inner workings, is everyone really equal in this club of nations? The short answer is no, not really. The EU is not a perfectly level playing field. Larger, more powerful countries like Germany inevitably have more influence than smaller states. But it's not as simple as saying that the big guys always get their way. The EU's complex decision-making processes, with their emphasis on consensus building and compromise, do give smaller countries a voice. And as we've seen, they can be quite adept at using their limited power to achieve their goals. The EU is a balancing act, a constant negotiation between the interests of individual member states and the desire for collective action. It's messy, it's complicated, and it doesn't always work perfectly. But for all its flaws, the EU remains a remarkable achievement, a testament to the power of cooperation, and the belief that we can achieve more together than we ever could alone.